Shalom, I'm Rabbi Michael Panitz. I'm the rabbi of Temple Israel of Norfolk, Virginia, speaking to you from the pulpit of our synagogue. At this time, my message is entitled, All in the Family? All in the Family? How wide does the circle of your family extend? Nuclear family? Cousins club? Second cousins thrice removed? Stepchildren of half-uncles? Last week, we looked at the intriguing narrative of the daughters of Tzelofchad, their successful petition to change the inheritance laws of ancient Israel, and the counterclaim brought by the elders of their clan, Gilad. Book of Numbers, chapters 27 and 36. This week we will revisit that story using a wider lens. We will look at the large-scale social structure of the biblical Israelites in their earliest formative period. Upon scrutiny, we will see that the conventional picture that the children of Israel divided themselves into 12 tribes is an approximation or an ideological reinterpretation, and that the nitty-gritty of the actual history was more complex. We have all learned that Father Jacob had 12 sons, the eponymous ancestors of the 12 tribes of Israel. That is a staple of the synagogue Sunday school curriculum, and it is reinforced in Jewish ritual art, and even on Hanukkah candle boxes. This attractively simple idea is not the entire story. It coexists with some other biblical data, and the coexistence is not entirely smooth. First, we notice that the number 12 is so important that it endures when the identity of its constituent tribes changes. The 12 sons of Jacob include Levi. But Levi does not receive land along with the other tribes. Levites live among the others. To keep the number at 12, the tribe of Joseph is subdivided into Ephraim and Menashe. Second, the biblical sources reflecting the earliest history of the Israelites in the Promised Land are not as neatly organized into 12 tribes as the idealized picture suggests. Consider, for example, the Song of Deborah, Judges chapter 5. Widely accepted on linguistic grounds as one of the earliest portions of the Bible to reach written form. She lists the following groups: Ephraim, Binyamin, Machir, Zevulun, Yisachar, Reuven, Gilead, Dan, Asher, Naphtali, and Meroz. She makes no mention of Judah, Yehudah, and Shimon, Simon. Were they living too far south to be within her political horizon? Let us notice that Menashe is not listed. Rather, two groups elsewhere thought of as part of Menashe are listed as existing separately, Machir and Gilad. So what was the reality of the large-scale organization of the children of Israel in our earlier stages of national life in our homeland? Perhaps the clans of what we call Menashe and not the larger tribe were the focus of identity of its members. And for what reason? Perhaps geography. Notice that Menashe, alone among the tribes, is divided, with some living on the River Jordan's west bank and some on its east bank, a very different topography and a different way of making a living. While you're pondering that, think about another strange aspect of our weekly Torah reading. In Numbers 32, we read of the petition by the tribes of Reuven and Gad to remain on the eastern side of the Jordan and not receive land on the west bank. Those two groups wanted to settle in the territories recently conquered when Sihon, king of the Amorites, and Og, king of Bashan, went to war against the Israelites. Moses was initially reluctant, but after gaining their consent to conditions binding them to the defense of their fellow Israelites, he conceded. At that point, the text contains an unexpected new datum. Quote, chapter 32 of Numbers, verse 33. So Moses assigned to them, to the Gadites, to the Reubenites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og of Bashan, the land with its various cities and the territories of the surrounding towns. Why is the half-tribe of Manasseh suddenly in this story? My sense of the actual history is that the old Song of Deborah is our most reliable witness. The sub-clan of Gilead, or its larger clan, Machir, were the groups in which its members identified. If they had a larger allegiance to an entity later identified as, quote, the tribe of Manasseh, we do not know that from the most apt biblical source. Thinking about historical parallels, I know that in feudal times, in the Middle Ages, people thought of themselves in local terms. They located themselves with reference to the lands of this count or that duke. Only late in the Middle Ages did the generalizations known as England or France and the like become the geographical entities in which people identified themselves. What then was the basis of the unity of the Israelites in those early days? Not the picture of a unified nation and a neat table of family connections, since that is most reasonably understood as a retrojection from later authors, a reconstruction of Israelite history from the court of David and Solomon, or even from a study hall on the waters of Babylon. The unity of the tribes of Israel was their allegiance, however imperfect, to the God of Israel. Ultimately, ideology shaped identity. Israelites became Israelites because they worshiped the God of Israel. I'm sharing all this today because we are at an inflection point in our history, both as Jews and as Americans. There are powerful centrifugal forces at work in our world. In the USA, some of us are red and some are blue, and the level of partisanship is so high that we have to work assiduously to keep alive the ideal of a pluribus unum, out of the many, one. Many of our American neighbors have stopped even trying to do that. In Israel, the minority who shore up the prime minister and the growing majority who call upon him to lead the country differently or to accede to new elections were demonstrating in the streets before the pogrom of October 7th. And now, 300 days later, the prolongation of the war has caused the differences of Israeli opinion to re-emerge, to grow ever stronger. We see from the Bible that the idea of a tribe crystallized from a shared dream, not only, from shared DNA. People were part of the same tribe not because they all descended from the same prehistoric ancestor, but because the, quote, mystic chords of memory, to quote Abraham Lincoln, bound them together. The idea of a tribe is a statement of unity. Americans need to remember that they are Americans. Our brothers and sisters in Israel need to remember that they are Israelis. Certainly, the in-house differences are very important, but let the concerned citizens recover a sense of being part of a country, even as they debate, lobby, demonstrate, and ultimately vote. Again, to paraphrase Abraham Lincoln, who warned about a house divided, may we summon the better angels of our nature to meet the crisis of this moment. Amen.